It's very utilitarian in here. Mironoir notes with the plastic and chrome walls and tile flooring. There's a carpet bolted to the floor to increase traction and small handholds all over. I'm afraid my people just aren't as wealthy as we'd like to be. The Dauntless is the finest ship humanity has ever produced, but compared to most other vessels around the galaxy, it's liable to come up short in almost every field, Vernon admits, as he slowly shows her down towards the barracks where he would be living in if not with her. And where does this ship excel? I can't say I'm too thrilled with the idea of you dwelling within such a place. She asks as the idea of decompression and just being hit by a pirate raid terrified her. This ship has enough redundant systems that you can break it into pieces, and most of those pieces can endure for days or even weeks. Really? Oh yes, we've got a dozen little tricks for filtering the air and a few chemical reaction to create oxygen and also keep up air pressure. He explains before pointing towards a closet with a large circle and a small squiggle on it. That sign is O2, meaning oxygen supply. He says, opening it up. This is effectively a candle that gives off safe oxygen to breathe. It also burns very hot, so once we set one up, we stay away from it. He says, indicating a few strange cylinders, and then gesturing to the closed vent above it. Interesting. Where was this technology invented? It was made for submarines, underwater vehicles. We adapted a lot of submarine technology for axiom-free atmospherics. Actually, we straight up cannibalized about a dozen different submarines to make the ventilation systems, twice their number in aircraft carriers, and a large number of rockets, and a few hundred pieces of experimental equipment. This really the biggest warship your kind has ever made, isn't it? Mironoir asks, and he nods. Yes. Not only am I still a member of the crew, but some of the work building it was done by me. Nothing advanced, mind you, but a lot of welding and riveting and soldering. Did you? Oh, yes. This hallway, in fact, was something that I spent a few days on. The whole thing for the next few hundred meters, I was on the team that did all of it. We had to build the Dauntless in space. We just wouldn't have the technology to get a ship like this into orbit and landing it without axiom. It will shatter the insides like glass and crumple the frame as it slams into the ground. Is this massive ship really so fragile? She asks in horror. Yes and no. With axiom, there's an enormous amount of durability. This ship has more ablative armor than most ships have anything. It's tough to the point that you can shatter it, and the individual components can survive on their own, and on top of that, there's no other ship in the galaxy that can go from system to system without being undone by null. I suppose so, but how do you prevent axiom-dense systems from exploding? Even when idle, a warp engine has a more than high enough concentration of power to be utterly destroyed by even a short jaunt into cruel space. We take them apart. Each and every axiom-using component of the ship is pulled apart and purged of energy. That way, when we re-enter cruel space, there won't be any issues. Interesting, that's certainly one way to— You shall not pass, a voice bellows from nearby, drawing up the couple short in confusion. What? Both Vernon and a man unseen nearby ask. The couple rounds the corner to see a soldier being held at stick point by another man in gray bedsheets with a pair of mop heads for a fake beard and hair. I am the servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor, the robed soldier bellows, and Vernon groans into his hands before chuckling. Oh, Christ, Vernon mutters. Dude, I got a shit. Go back to the shadows. Hop it, Merlin. I need to drop a deuce. Oh no, Merlin's in the bathroom itself. To pass him, you must answer the riddles 3. I'm Gandalf, the nerd says to the pissed-off soldier who draws his pistol. I can literally harden the air like metal in front of the barrel. That doesn't scare me. Don't be jackass, Jonathan. Vernon calls to him, and the cosplaying man turns around and almost jumps. Holy crap, Vernon! Oh, whoa, that must be your girl. Hey, Bob, get out here. It's Vernon and his wife. The Gandalf impersonator shouts into the bathroom and outrushes a second man using mop heads to simulate hair and beard and sheets for robes. Thankfully, both are dressed under the get-ups, and the man they were harassing uses the distraction to rush inside. What are you complete clowns doing? Vernon demands them as Bob and Jonathan glance at each other as they pull off the disguises. They're in the on-duty tan cargos and black t-shirts with boots. Just having some fun, man, come on, Bob protests. Bob, you complained to me that people were bullying you out of the toilet and messing with you. Now that you've got the power, you're doing it? I thought you were better than that. Oh, come on. It's just some harmless fun? Bob starts to protest, but it turns to a question as he gets the stink eye partway through. I come here to show my wife the ship and you punks are making it look bad. What the hell, you guys? Vernon demands, and both of them cringe. For God's sake, Vernon, we're bored out of our minds here, Jonathan protests and gets a glare that draws him up short. Bored out of your minds? How could you be bored? You have access to an entire galaxy's worth of media, movies, video games, books, and more. Vernon is more visibly upset than Mironoir has ever seen in him. What about this set him off? Actual freaking magic is available to you. How do not have so much to do? Vernon demands as pure power arcs between his hands in a dazzling display of power and control. Well, Bob begins just as the man they were harassing emerges from the bathroom with steam coming from his hands and a toilet flushing behind him. Oh, thank God. That was almost forcing its way out, the guy says before looking around. Well, hello. Tell me, Missy, if you ever get tired of a nerd boy here, then you should shack up with a big... is as far as the man gets before being flicked in the forehead and simply stopping. No one hits on my wife, Vernon growls out. Dude, you inverted the temporal acceleration research. You scary, Bob says as Vernon puts his arm protectively over Mironoir's shoulders, and she can only smile. He's fighting to keep them away from her. The reversal is so scandalous, so exotic, so strange but wonderful. Right. Look, Vern, you've been let out. You've got a gorgeous wife and things to do. You're going to a tournament. You're going in front of the galaxy as a champ. We're stuck in here. No matter how much there is to do, there's still the fact that we can't go out and take a look at the massive alien world just begging to be explored. We're going nuts again. Yay. But I know. Believe me, I know how important it is that we stay in the ship and not cause problems. We all know. That doesn't make it easier. Jonathan cuts him off. Did you at least sign up for shore leave rotation? Vernon asks ruefully, his annoyance clearly shifting to sympathy. I'm out in 3 days and Johnny Boy here gets out next week. Good luck, though I doubt you'll find half so beautiful a woman. Vernon taunts the two as he gives Mironoir a kiss on the forehead. She leans into him with a sigh of contentment and watches in wonder as the two men have a flash of jealousy rush across their faces. Man, what? Hey, wait a second, what happened? The other soldier asks as the Axiom stops freezing everything in a moment for him. Did the record skip? What the hell? He demands, looking freaked. Don't hit on my wife, Vernon states, and the guy just stares at him for a moment before groaning. Should have known. You're part of the freak show, aren't you? Nerd squad, you jackass, Vernon says tightly. Whatever. Bet you're one of those guys that can't take the sound of a... The soldier begins and takes a breath before Vernon pokes him to stop him in that moment in time. Okay, he had it coming, but you shouldn't go down to his level, justified or not, Vernon admits and admonishes at the same time. How about we be somewhere else before Shrieky here gives his lungs a workout? Bob asks, and Mironoir lets out a little huff of surprise when Vernon picks her up and all three men rush down the corridor before the time stop wears off on the other soldier. They round a corner in time to hear an unearthly, high-pitched shriek that's cut off with confusion, then frustration. What was that all about? She asks as she's put down, rather baffled at the behavior to put things mildly. Inner-ship politics, Vernon says ruefully as Bob and Jonathan chuckle with pained expressions. Basically, every major group in the Dauntless has its own sort of small society and act in different ways. The Nerd Squad, one of the smaller factions which I'm a part of, is generally regarded somewhat poorly around the ship due to our obsession with hobbies and pursuits that kept us busy in cruel space. Jealousy is fueling that, Bob explains with a grin. Of course, other groups exist as well. Everyone's scared near witless around the scientists. No one feels safe around the intelligence division as they can borderline read your mind in casual conversation. Everyone's polite to the engineers. The command crew are kept at arm's length due to numerous threats of court-martial. The legal division was kept at arm's length before, but since we got access to the galaxy, that changed. It is a work of outright magic to listen to those men and women rant long and hard about the nonsense of the galaxy. Oh, the loopholes. Oh, the contradictions, Jonathan remarks with a grin. The rest of the ship is divided among who likes what kind of weapon if for no other reason than to have a group to belong to. Machine guns forever. Shotguns are better. Germans straight up thought they were a war crime in the world wars. Vernon counters immediately with a grin. Boys, you're both wrong. You go sniper or go home. Bob adds in with friendly banter as Mironoir giggles. So they're divided? Just these few thousand alone are divided among themselves? That's not a good thing. Not a good thing at all for the species. Of course, that doesn't mean to say we don't have each other's back. The guy back there and us may bicker and argue a lot. But if things start going wrong, there's not a person on this ship that wouldn't kill and die for each other. The cliques and clubs are more for personal entertainment and social interaction. Bob remarks, and Vernon notices the troubled look on Mironoir's face. It's like siblings. You drive each other absolutely nuts, but if anything goes wrong, you go straight to the mat for them. He explains to soothe her worries, and it all clicks into place. Interfamily competition and bickering? That's fine, but it would look absolutely vile from the outside, wouldn't it? Much like what happened here. A prank followed by an argument. It certainly sounds better when put like that, although I do believe we were in the middle of a tour of the ship. Of course, this way, please. Bob, Jonathan, this is my wife, Princess Mironoir. Wait, it wasn't a gag? You've married into alien royalty? Jonathan demands in shock. It's not quite so advanced as you gentlemen think. I'm a battle princess. My title is earned, not born. I believe you explained it, that I'm a knight by the titles of your history? She asks Vernon, who nods. Yes, she earned her royal title in a tournament. The same one that you're entering, isn't it? Bob asks with a grin. Yes, it's rather fitting for a princess and a prince to be married, isn't it? Maybe, but... Jonathan makes a gesture to Bob, who scoots behind them before he takes a wide stance with his arms crossed. You may only pass if you answer my question true. Seriously, dude? Vernon demands. He who dost ruin the fun shall become it, Bob declares from behind them and gets a very unimpressed look from Vernon. Then he grins. I thought it was, he who has smelt dost verily dealt it, Vernon asks, and there's light chuckling from the two men. Mironoir relaxes what little tension she had felt building up. Friends playing with one another. Of this question, you must answer true. You actually thought it was funny and only protested because you want to look mature in front of your girl, don't you? Jonathan demands grandiosely. Hey, Vernon protests. Sounds like a yes to me, Bob adds in. You can both hop out the airlocks. Vernon curses before palming his forehead. Not much of a curse when we're landed in safe atmosphere, Bob remarks. I know. I knew it the moment it left my mouth. Vernon groans as Mironoir begins to giggle. So it took you long enough to introduce your girl to us, buddy, Jonathan says, throwing an arm around Vernon's neck and getting an elbow in his ribs that he mostly ignores. And Lady Mironoir? When we heard that this Chungus had managed to marry a lady so lovely, we just had to look you up. We back each other up, you see. Then we found the most interesting video of a large, muscle-bound hulk of a woman literally cratering the landscape with every step and throwing her equally massive opponents around like ping-pong balls out of a railgun. We just had to meet you after that. A shame it took so long. Oh my goodness, but I was so brash and foolish back then, so unsure of myself that I bloated myself up to an enormous size to compensate for it all. Mironoir waves it away as Vernon grabs Jonathan by the back of the shirt and hoists him off the ground one-handed. Knock it off! Fine, but we do have a request, Bob says. Oh no, you two don't want to... Vernon trails off before chuckling to himself. Oh yes. Lady Mironoir, there is a style of commentary where the silhouettes of the commentators are seen alongside the piece of media, with their voices and commentary given precedence over the commented upon media. We would like to go into a production where you, your husband, and us two are all commenting on your own tournament rounds some years ago. It would be an excellent way to introduce Apuk culture to humanity, and by giving it your personal point of view, and with your own insights, we'll be able to understand yourself and your people all the better, Jonathan offers. What is it with you two and Mystery Science Theater? Vernon asks to Mironoir's confusion. It's a good show. Yeah, but come on, guys.